Welcome to the show. Good to see you here another week with us. I'll be talking later this week with my guest, Ginny Favede, who is the recent appointee as Executive Director of the Ohio Valley Construction Employers Council and also co-chair of Project BEST. But first, we'll get to our regular features. And we'll start off with a community champion this week, and that's Dr. Dave Gaudino, who is an educator and coach in Marshall County, who does a fantastic job each year, I think for the last quarter century or so, believe it or not, of putting on the Hilltop basketball tournament. He puts on other tournaments as well, runs the Marshall County Youth Basketball program. But this past weekend, he put on the Hilltop tournament. It was held at Moundsville Middle School, and to see local teams there, but also teams from Morgantown and North Huntington, Pennsylvania, and Williamstown come in and see people eating out in the local restaurants and raising money for the programs in Marshall County, but also more importantly, these kids just having a good time playing basketball, smiles on their faces. And he actually gave a speech at the end of each championship game about kids having fun and how if you have kids having a good time, having fun, that they'll keep doing that and they'll stay involved in things and they'll get better at it, whether it be basketball, math, whatever it may be, that they'll get better at it and they'll have more fun. And I really appreciated his speech and what he had to say. And I think that it's awfully true in terms of keeping kids involved in things, smiling, having a lot of fun, because there are so many distractions out there these days for kids with social media, bullying, other things that we see, that kids can get into the wrong things. There's a lot of drugs out there that kids are getting into. If they're involved in activities like basketball or other activities, there's a less of a chance that they'll get involved in negative things that'll bring them down. And Dr. Dave Gaudino has done a great job over the years of promoting things for our children in this area, particularly in Marshall County, so that they will have good lives. So he is the community champion of the week here on the Jamie Bordas Show. Congratulations, Dr. Gaudino, for doing a fantastic job. Next, quote of the week. This comes from Ken Hubbard. It's K-I-N. I think it's actually short for McKinley. But he was a American cartoonist, humorist, and journalist back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he said this, and I think it's pretty appropriate this time of year with what we've been seeing: don't knock the weather. 9/10 of the people couldn't start a conversation if it didn't change once in a while. And it's so true. I mean, we've had some crazy weather here recently. It goes from being 80 degrees one day to snowing the next, to back to pouring down rain and thunderstorms. And, the weather, though, does oftentimes serve as the conversation starter for people. And it gives, people like Dr. Dave here at WTRF something to talk about, of course, as well. And but it is something that's been a little bit crazy here this winter as we head into the spring. But it's not bad to see the weather change, and you can always bring sunshine to people's lives yourself by being positive, having a smile on your face. But that weather is always the conversation starter. So I thought that was an interesting quote there by Ken Hubbard. Next, our legal tip this week, and actually coming to you on a Wednesday here, as you might note from the ashes on my head. It's not just that I haven't showered all week. We're taping on a Wednesday for our Thursday and Saturday shows this week. But our legal tip this week is something that I think that people really need to be mindful of, because there are so many homeowners out there that don't understand this, and that is that don't necessarily accept the word of the insurance company with respect to what is and is not covered on your homeowner's claim. You have an insurance policy, which is a contract. It's a contract between you and the insurance company, and that contract governs. And typically most insurance policies will basically proceed under the premise that you're supposed to be put back into the position that you were in. And that's where so many times people are fooled or misled by the insurance company. I'll give you an example. You have a homeowner's loss where the siding on your house is damaged in some way, all right? And let's say it's the left side of your house. And that siding no longer exists. They don't make it anymore. So you got to get new siding. Well, should they only replace the damaged part on the left side, so now you have siding on 3/4 of your house that's one color or shade or whatever, and the new one's a different shade? No. I mean, nobody wants to live in a house, if they can avoid it, where one side of the house is a different color than the other three sides. So they have to replace all four sides. They have to put you back in the position that you were in, which is having a house where the siding all matches. And if they can't get the same stuff, it's not made anymore. And sometimes it's even the case that even if you can get it, the sun has caused the siding to fade over the years or whatever else it may be, and you may be entitled to have that entire siding on the house replaced. Same thing's true inside the house, whether it be carpet or hardwood or some type of countertops. You know, your countertop is damaged and the rest of the kitchen has the same countertop and it's not made anymore. Well, nobody wants to have half a countertop one color, the other half another color, or a different shade, or whatever it may be. So you're entitled to have the entire thing replaced, so you're put back in the position that you were in under most insurance policies. So the key to this is, you know, knowing what your rights are, not just taking the word of the insurance company or their adjuster, who oftentimes are looking to save the insurance company money. So if you're not sure what your rights are, that's when it's time to talk to a lawyer, find out what your policy says, have it interpreted, and have your rights protected so that you can make sure that you get the full benefits of what you paid for, because you're paying those premiums every 6 months, a year, or monthly, however you may be paying it, and you're entitled to, when the time comes and you unfortunately have a claim, to be treated the right way. We need to take a break. When I come back, I'll be with Ginny Favede, the new co-chair of Project BEST and the executive director of the Ohio Valley Construction Employers Council. Stay with us here on the show.
I was the oldest of 9 children, so as a result of that, I grew up fighting battles for my brothers and sisters, and we grew up in some pretty tough neighborhoods. I saw juveniles and women being mistreated, and I thought that it would be a wonderful thing to be able to fight for people that were less fortunate and that couldn't fight for themselves. The thing that I enjoy still is helping people and fighting fights that other people sometimes weren't able to fight themselves.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
I was the oldest of 9 children, so as a result of that, I grew up fighting battles for my brothers and sisters, and we grew up in some pretty tough neighborhoods. I saw juveniles and women being mistreated, and I thought that it would be a wonderful thing to be able to fight for people that were less fortunate and that couldn't fight for themselves. The thing that I enjoy still is helping people and fighting fights that other people sometimes weren't able to fight themselves.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest on the show with me, and this week I have Ginny Favede, who's the new executive director. I'm going to try this one more time. I think I've gotten it right each time. The Ohio Valley Construction Employers Council and co-chair of Project BEST. Thanks so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
That is a mouthful for that title, so you got to come up with maybe just something shorter. I don't know.
Well, you know what? You're actually going to see that take place. You know, we're looking to reinvent ourselves in the next couple of years, and I think that's going to be one of our challenges. Is perhaps a new name. It was originally founded in the 1940s as the West Virginia Builders Exchange. And then in the 1973, the bylaws were changed and they were renamed the Ohio Valley Employers Construction Council. So, you know, there's an opportunity for a new change once again. So
how do you, first of all, what is the council and what does it do?
It's basically a contractors trade association. We represent our members. We have membership, you know, throughout the Ohio Valley, and we actually link them with opportunities, job opportunities. You know, putting contractors and affiliated trades to work in projects. You know, it's basically economic development. You know, which is why it was such a natural transition for me going from being a Belmont County Commissioner to this particular position.
Well, let me ask you about that. Your background as a commissioner, you know, 2-term commissioner there in Belmont County, and you know, holding elected office. I always say, you know, sometimes the people can feel like they own you. I mean, you get calls all times a day, in the evenings, at night. It really is a service and a lot of work. But you were able to accomplish some pretty good things for Belmont County during your time there as well. And what are some of the things you're most proud of there?
Oh my goodness gracious. You know, when we took over Belmont County in 2009, Belmont County, like, you know, the other 87 counties in the state of Ohio, you know, we're going into the recession. And Belmont County was struggling. You know, we had actually had a lot of our retail actually leave Belmont County to come across the river to what was, you know, growing as the Highlands, you know, which has continued to grow to this day. And we'd lost a lot of our retail. And to most people, that's not important because they say those aren't the jobs that we need. But they are someone's job, and they are still important jobs. But more importantly, retail actually pays retail tax, and sales tax is one of the largest components of, you know, county government, especially in Belmont County. So we had a significant loss of revenue out of our general fund when we lost that retail. So when we took over the county, we really had to restructure. We had a 25% cut across the board, and we had to buckle down and refocus on how we were doing what we were supposed to be doing, which is servicing the public without sacrificing the time or the services to the public. And we weathered that, and we turned Belmont County around. And I think my single greatest accomplishment is in 2016, Belmont County, along with Ohio and Marshall counties of West Virginia, was noted by the U.S. Department of Commerce as the 5th fastest growing economy in the nation.
Well, that's fantastic. Obviously some oil and gas activity contributing to those types of things. And, as a Belmont County Commissioner, you like to see people coming into the area, the growth. But now, in your new role, you want to see, of course, the oil and gas activity that's going on. You want to see some of that work and that business go to, of course, the local people.
Well, I think that's always been a thing, making sure that the work goes to local people. I call it the cycle of life. When you hire local, or you shop at local businesses, or you hire local companies to do your work, those people spend their money locally, and that goes right back into the coffers. It goes back into sales tax, and it goes back into providing services. And frequenting local businesses is important. It grows our economy, and it restructures our communities. And the transition from county to this particular job is almost seamless, because you're still investing in a lot of the same things. You're investing in local workers, local labor, and local businesses. And that's the backbone of this area. And the oil and gas industry has been tremendous for our area. I shared a lot lately that in 2011, Belmont County spent about a year working on a strategic plan, and there was a small paragraph about the oil and gas industry. And the focus was we were going to repower what was the first energy plant with biomass. And we were looking for large tracts of land to grow this woody product, to burn, because there were federal regulations that they had to stop burning coal or install the scrubbers, which were cost prohibitive. And you fast forward into 2016, and the first energy plant's been completely razed. It doesn't even exist, and it's how quickly things can change. But the oil and gas has been a tremendous opportunity for the whole entire area.
Taking your experience as a Belmont County Commissioner, now you do have a bigger geographic area that you have to look at too, of course. How does that translate, from your experience working with the county to now looking at the region as a whole, so to speak, in your current position?
Well, I think that for me, I spent 8 years as a county commissioner, 5 years as a city councilwoman for the city of St. Clairsville. And regardless of any profession, the most important thing you can do is have quality relationships. And I have wonderful relationships on both sides of the river. I shared with you, I actually lived in Wheeling, early 1990s, and I spent a lot of time over the last 8 years working on the state level. I was the second vice president of the County Commissioners Association in the state of Ohio, and I sat on an economic development committee for the National Association of County Commissioners. And so I have a lot of relationships throughout the area. When the oil and gas industry really started to come into our area, there are 9 counties in the southeastern part of Ohio, and all of those county commissioners, we all convened on a relatively frequent basis at Ohio University Eastern, because we wanted to seize the opportunity, and we wanted to do it as a group, not as separate counties. We wanted to figure out how we, championed this industry and benefited from it, but we wanted to do it as a region. So that is serving me very well now because of those relationships and working, outside of Belmont County, working throughout the state of Ohio, working on both sides of the river, and working as a group and as an entity, because we look at it as a region. I think we know from our losses in Wheeling, Pittsburgh Steel, and Ormet, unemployment doesn't know boundaries, and employment doesn't know boundaries, so we have to work as a region.
Well, we need to take a break. When we come back, I'll continue speaking with Ginny Favede about some of her goals in her new position and some of the things we might expect to see in the years to come. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Danoon Lumber is proud to be the sponsor of the Wheeling Chamber of Commerce Home and Garden Show, February 10th, 11th, and 12th at Westbanco Arena. Stop by their display and see for yourself the beauty and affordability of natural hardwood moldings and paneling. Danoon now also features quality Amish-made furniture, including rockers, tables, chairs, and benches. Better grade, better selection, better price. Danoon Lumber.
Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration has been restoring homes after disasters for nearly 4 decades. Through that experience, we present Panhandle Custom Homes, Kitchens, and Baths. We handle your entire project, from concept to completion, working with you every step of the way. From the budget-minded upgrade to a fully custom remodel, you can trust the Panhandle name. Panhandle Custom Homes, Kitchens, and Baths. Welcome home.
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest this week, Ginny Favede, co-chair of Project Best. I'm going to leave it at that because it's easier to say. And we've been talking about your role here in this position, and also with I'm going to try it as the executive director of the Ohio Valley Construction Employers Council. And what are some of the things that you see on the horizon moving forward that you might be involved with, and some of your goals, perhaps?
Well, some of our goals is building our membership. You know, we've had a tremendous growth here in the region as a whole. We've had a lot of new companies, a lot of oil and gas opportunities that have brought in a lot of new companies into the area, and building my membership. And at the same time that oil and gas opportunity has grown the area, the opportunity of the ethane cracker coming to Meade Township and Dilly's Bottom is a huge opportunity for the area. I want to make sure that my membership and my labor organization and Project Best have an opportunity at those job opportunities. I mean, we've heard the rumors of 5,000 to 10,000 construction jobs that are available, and most importantly, the downstream of that particular project. The other manufacturing that can come, and working with all the economic development entities throughout the region to make sure that we're assessing those opportunities and linking them with our contractors and our companies locally, so we can get that work here locally.
Well, I mean, you hit one of the nails on the head in terms of the big question that people have out there, which is this cracker going to happen? Yeah. I mean, what do you think? You know what? I think that it is going to happen. I mean, nothing's 100% until it's signed on the bottom line. And from the beginning of this, we've been cautioned by the state of Ohio to always phrase it as being cautiously optimistic, because you never want to give the impression that it is a done deal, because they are continuing to work through it. It's a business arrangement, it's a business deal, and it's a large and very expensive project that is taking a lot of significant review. The two designs, and as you know, that last 2 weeks ago, they notified us that they have decided to not render a decision in March. That's actually the second delay that we have. Originally, we were supposed to know in November of 2016, and then they pushed that forward into March of 2017, and now they're looking towards the end of the year. But from what I am told from Matt Sobalski from Jobs Ohio, that everything, they are still reviewing everything. They are still looking at acquiring the property. They're still looking at acquiring the individual properties from the property owners, and still the air permit and all of the other permitting processes are still ongoing. If it does happen, I mean, if the decision's made sometime the end of this year, is there any timeline on when construction would start and when people may be able to see opportunities for jobs connected with that? I don't know that there is a timeline in place, but if we look at the Shell project that, looked at Belmont County, we thought in 2012 that we were going to be the recipients of that project. We were devastated when it moved on to Monaca, Pennsylvania, but that was in 2012, and we're here in 2017, and they're just now looking at beginning to, potentially constructing the first phase of that project. So, I mean, if I use that, as a timetable, you're probably thinking 4 or 5 years from now, but there's going to be a lot of excavating work and, lining things up, because when we talk about 5,000 to 10,000 construction, jobs, you're talking about people convening in an area where, Route 7 goes down to Dilly's Bottom. So you're looking at creating spaces for parking lots and transportation and places for those employees to be parking as well as living. So there was a lot of work that'll go into place over the next couple of years. But I'm thinking, if I had to answer that question, I'm thinking 3 to 5 years from now for construction to really truly begin. With respect to your role now, if you had to speak to the business leaders in this community, to the citizens in this community, what would you say to them? What's the number one thing you would want them to know about Project Best about the council, what would you want them to know the most?
You know, that we are vested in the Ohio Valley, that we are vested in employment opportunities, that we are invested in economic opportunities, that at the end of the day, regardless if we're a contractor or a laborer or an affiliated trade, a printer company, that at the end of the day, we're about jobs and we're about opportunities to do work, and you know, regardless of what your trade is, and that's what powers our economy, is, you know, when we all work and we work together, that, you know, we all benefit. You know, in economic development, we have a saying that it's about baseball gloves and dance lessons. And at the end of the day, regardless of the entity, whether it's Economic Development Project Best or the OVCEC, you can actually just utilize the acronym for it going forward. It's about the ability to earn a good living, and about an ability to put dinner on the table and to take care of your family. You know, so for my membership, it's about linking my contractors and my businesses with job opportunities so that they can grow their businesses and they can pay their employees, and that we can all work together to grow our area.
Approximately how many members do you have?
We have a couple hundred at this point.
Yeah, and one of the goals is to grow that.
Absolutely.
And are most of those individuals, or are those businesses as well?
Businesses as well, yes.
Yeah, and now, with respect to that, how far out does the reach go?
Oh, we've got contractors in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia. We've got contractors in Pittsburgh. We've got, you know, Weirton, Steubenville, the entire area.
And so sometimes an individual owner of a business may be the member, and sometimes it's the actual business itself. Is that how it works?
Yes.
So you got to get around a little bit with that big of a region that maybe you stretch, or maybe do they come to you mostly? Or
well, no, actually, I think that at this point that it'll be myself visiting them, you know, getting acquainted with their business, getting acquainted with the business owners, you know, building a sense of trust, you know, back again to the basis of everything, building relationships. And in construction, you know, that's the bottom line. It's about building relationships.
Well, congratulations on the new position. Good luck with it. It sounds like you've got a lot on your sights there, and that you'll do a fantastic job with it. And I really appreciate you being on the show here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Sure thing. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
It's time again for the Tri-State Home and Garden Show, March 3rd, 4th, and 5th at the Florian Center in Wintersville. Showcase your products and services to thousands of potential customers. Contact Rob Van Dyne or Brandy Wallagura at Wheelhouse Creative to reserve your booth today.
Well, I was the oldest of 9 children, so as a result of that, I grew up fighting battles for my brothers and sisters, and we grew up in some pretty tough neighborhoods. I saw juveniles and women being mistreated, and I thought that it would be a wonderful thing to be able to fight for people that were less fortunate and that couldn't fight for themselves. The thing that I enjoy still is helping people and fighting fights that other people sometimes weren't able to fight themselves.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
It's time again for the Tri-State Home and Garden Show, March 3rd, 4th, and 5th at the Florian Center in Wintersville. Showcase your products and services to thousands of potential customers. Contact Rob Van Dyne or Brandy Wallagura at Wheelhouse Creative to reserve your booth today.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports here, and I want to talk WVU basketball first. If you watch this show on a regular basis, you know one of the themes that I've stated throughout the recent weeks and months is whether or not the WVU men's basketball team can get those big road wins that it needs to show that it can win away from the Coliseum. You know, I love watching the Mountaineers play. The style of play is exciting, it's fast, it's fun, but, and it's a big but, you know, they couldn't beat TCU on the road, barely, and then couldn't close out Baylor and lose to Baylor down there in Texas. And just to me, you know, after giving up the big lead against Kansas a couple weeks ago and now having the game at Baylor that can't be closed out, it just continues to show that they're going to have a tough time away from the Coliseum where they're not feeding off that crowd energy. I think when you're active and in that press the way the Mountaineers are, that the crowd can really give you the energy that you need to sustain that type of play throughout a game and really rattle the other team when you're already trapping them and now the crowd's going crazy. And I just don't know that they can put together a string of wins the way they need to make a deep tournament run in the NCAA tournament. We'll see what happens in the conference tournament. Of course, that's going to be on a neutral court, you know, instead of at the Coliseum. So on a neutral court, we'll see what they can do. But it concerns me that the type of play away from the Coliseum, I think the Mountaineers can beat any team in the country on any given night. They can knock off the number one team in the country, but they can also be beaten by probably just about any team that'll be in the NCAA tournament on any given night as well. So can they get hot? I think they can maybe make a little bit of a run, but I don't know how deep it can be. I'll have a bigger opinion maybe once we see what they do in the Big 12 Conference tournament. So we'll keep an eye on them over the course of the next week or so. Turning to professional sports, the Steelers with a big week, especially for an off season. Big contract given to Antonio Brown. 6-year contract extension that will basically keep him in black and gold for probably the rest of his career. And surprisingly, this has caused a lot of controversy. I mean, some people love it because they think he's a great receiver, perhaps the greatest in the game, and they've made him the highest paid receiver in the game. Other people saying too many distractions come with AB. He's not worth that money. He doesn't show up in the big games. Listen, the guy has broken NFL records. He's had ridiculous, 1,000-yard season after 1,000-yard season. Yeah, does he like to have a little bit of fun on social media? Does he like to, dance around? Yeah, does he like to have touchdown celebrations? Sure. When it comes down to it, he's a remarkable talent. And, when you have Mr. Rooney, one of the owners of the Steelers saying he's one of the hardest workers the Steelers have ever had in franchise history, that means something. As an employer, when you have somebody that comes to work every day, works their butt off, and then produces results at whatever their job may be, that means something to you as an employer, and you want to reward those types of employees. So I think it was a great move by the Steelers. I think he'll continue to be productive. There's a little bit of sometimes drama that comes with all NFL receivers. It's a type of position that involves drama, but I think a great move to re-sign AB. And then also, of course, the Steelers place the franchise tag on Le'Veon Bell, meaning that if they can't reach a deal with him by this summer, that he'll be paid the average of the top 5 running backs in the league for the 2017 season. But they need to get a long-term deal done with Le'Veon Bell, which I think they're aiming to do. They've called this the first step in getting a long-term deal done with him. Look, the guy averaged 100 yards a game rushing, 50 yards a game receiving. Nobody's done that before. A lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball right now there in Pittsburgh. And on the defensive side, other big news this week, James Harrison agrees to a 2-year contract with the Steelers. The old man just keeps getting it done. Now, of course, the franchise leader in sacks for a career and a beast in the weight room. It just works his butt off every single day. Great to see James Harrison still getting it done at his age. So congratulations to the Steelers for re-signing him, and congratulations to James Harrison for getting back to Pittsburgh after a short stint in Cincinnati a couple years ago and having a great second life to his career there in Pittsburgh. And lastly, the Pittsburgh Pirates, spring training underway, and Andrew McCutchen, if you didn't catch his letter in the Players Tribune that was published online, take a look at it. I mentioned on this show a couple weeks ago that how he handled the move to right field would be a big factor in how the Pirates season would go, and he's handling it well. In fact, with a great deal of class and professionalism. Garrett Cole named the opening day starter by Clint Hurdle. Hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully he's going to be looking good, because the Pirates are going to need Garrett Cole to have a great year in order to make another playoff run. We'll keep an eye on that as we go forward in the weeks to come. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you again next week on the Jamie Bordas Show.